Good morning. Welcome to the launch of Greater Manchester's Economic Vision. I'm Simon Keegan. I'm the editor of the Northwest Business Insider. Now, lockdown has changed the way a lot of us approach work, and I think it's fair to say, changed the way we view what is essential and what's not. It's also changed the way we view technology. Certainly a year ago, I wouldn't have found myself doing events like this online. If and when we come out of lockdown restrictions, there's also an opportunity not to go back to normal, but forward to better. And according to my speakers, creating a greater Manchester and in turn, a greater Britain. Now, for viewers, your microphones and cameras are turned off, so you can submit any questions via the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. If anybody would like to tweet, please use the hashtag VisionGM. Now, today I will be joined by the co-chairs of Greater Manchester Local Enterprise Partnership. They are Lou Cordwell and Mo Issap, along with Elise Wilson, the leader of Stockport Council and Greater Manchester Combined Authorities Economic Portfolio Lead. Now, today there will be an opportunity for some audience questions for my guests, and I will try and fit in as many of those as I can. So at first, I'd like to speak to Lou Cordwell. Now, as well as being co-chair of the LEP, Lou is also a business pioneer in her own right and the founder of Magnetic North. Good morning, Lou. How are you?
Morning, Simon. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, very well. Lou, can you give us an idea? What exactly is this economic vision?
So we think of this economic vision as our kind of North Star. So beyond the kind of fires that we're having to put out at the moment, what is it we're aiming for, and how do we define success? So, you'll have seen Greater Manchester talk a lot in the last 6 months about building back better, kind of before everybody else decided to build back better with us, which is great. And really, this builds on the spirit of Build Back Better to talk about exactly what we mean by better and defining better, and more importantly, how we're going to get there. So we felt it was really important to articulate that really clearly and concisely, put a flag in the ground, and be very clear about what we're striving for in the longer term, because this is not just about economic growth, it's now about economic recovery because of the situation we're in. And for us, it's very important to define what flavour of economic recovery we want. So it's not any kind of economic growth or any kind of recovery. We're being very specific about what we're aiming for. And just as you said before, we actually, like most of the population, don't want to go back to how it was. We want to use the moment to go forward to something that is actually better and more inclusive and greener.
So Lou, I know you're quite a plain talking kind of person. So explain this for me, because there's all sorts of these buzzwords. I'm hearing Build Back Better, I'm hearing reset this, I'm hearing Imperative 21. Behind all these slogans, what exactly does all this mean?
So in essence, a lot of what we're talking about was coming anyway. So a lot of the digitization of the economy, we ourselves set out local industrial strategy that talked about future of health, materials innovation, a green future, a digital future. But as we've all seen in the last few months, a lot of those trends have accelerated at a rate that none of us could have anticipated. So what we're doing is capitalizing, I guess, on that moment to say, we have, in amongst all the crisis and the chaos, got an opportunity to redesign it better. As things get thrown up in the air and we have to put things back together, why wouldn't we take the opportunity to put it back together in a way that recognizes all the things that we know have failed? So in the past 6 months, we've seen how some of the people that we need the most, the people who put the food on our table, the people who empty our bins, the people who look after our parents when they're in hospital, all of those people need to be looked after better. They need to be paid properly. They need a decent standard of living. We've realised that actually we've been able to take a walk in the park at lunchtime and realise that the trees are pretty good and the wildlife's pretty good, and we want to carry on looking after that. And actually, we want a better balance of life, to be able to see our kids a little bit more, to feel a bit healthier. So I think we're recognizing that there is an opportunity to do all of that and still have economic growth and economic success, but just begin to redefine what that looks like. So for us, it's really just a redesign and a redefinition moment.
I mean, it's noticeable in the language, isn't it? You know, people have gone from talking about low-skilled workers to talking about essential workers and key workers and so on. So, I mean, this is an economic vision, and some would say this is a pretty bad time to launch an economic vision. You guys obviously disagree. What makes this a good time?
I think what makes this a good time is we're going to be making decisions now about what the future of our economy and therefore the future of our society looks like. And if we don't have that North Star, if we don't have something that looks beyond the crisis moment we're in, then we might well find ourselves looking up in 12 months and not actually liking what we see. So we feel it is really important, you know, just looks like anybody leading a business or a school or a family. Everybody needs to know longer term what it is they're shooting for. And so for us, we feel like it's absolutely critical, and also critical in our conversations outside of Greater Manchester with international communities, with national government, with our kind of northern neighbours, to be really clear on what we can contribute to the recovery plan. So I think this is the other part of our plan, really, is being very clear on what we can bring to the whole national picture and the national agenda of economic recovery.
So you talk about what we can contribute. So what do you see as being the region's strengths?
So we'll talk, and people will see in the plan about some very specific areas of opportunity. Some of those we'd already captured in the local industrial strategy, so green and health innovation and digital and creative and all of those sectors we've talked about before. But at its heart, the thing that we're best at and that's in our DNA and that we can contribute most is a culture of innovation. So what we're actually great at, and we've always been great at and will continue to be great at, is reinvention. And this is a moment where, as we've seen, you know, on a daily basis, the incredible businesses of Greater Manchester are having to reinvent and pivot and evolve and change just to survive. You know, so we know we're great at that, and we want to capture that in this kind of vision of our future. But at its heart, you know, we'll talk a little bit about Innovation GM as a specific initiative, which is huge and ambitious and really critical. But most of all, you know, it's our people and our ability to evolve and iterate, and all of the industries that have grown out of that culture of innovation over the years.
So let's just kind of take you away from your kind of LEP role for the moment. You know, you're a business leader yourself. You set up Magnetic North. I think you were in the Northern Quarter before it was trendy. You know, how have you seen business mindsets changing during lockdown?
So I think, I mean, you know, business owners are people as well as business owners. So they've been on the same kind of human journey that we've all been on. It's been incredibly difficult, I think, in terms of a leadership challenge. But actually, one of the unique things in Greater Manchester is how quickly people pull together. So what's amazing always is big business, small business, individuals, voluntary services, the incredible sense of togetherness. And very early on, when we began to talk about Build Back Better and kind of put a bit of a kind of rally cry for people who wanted to help, we were overwhelmed really with the businesses that stepped forward and talked about wanting to be part of that. So it's really clear to us that our colleagues that we all work with, you know, as fellow business owners and the wider community in Manchester, they're all really feeling the same sentiment, which is that largely we don't want to go backwards, we do want to go forwards. And we're really passionate about Manchester's opportunity actually as a city region to be a great exemplar internationally of what that stands for.
So you think this vision, I suppose we're going to find out in our comments section and in our submitted questions, you think this vision is one that will be welcomed by our business leaders? Yeah,
we think so. I mean, it's been very reflective of all of the conversations we've had, and you know, we talked a bit about Imperative 21, but, you know, there's a global movement that we're part of with, you know, 70,000 businesses represented in that internationally, some of the world's most modern, pioneering ventures and investors, and 20 million employees in that group. So we know we're not alone. We know this moment was coming anyway, and we know it's very true to the Manchester spirit and how we do things in Greater Manchester. So I might be proved wrong, but we're hoping there'll be lots of people who are willing to come on that journey with us.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Lou, you're going to stick around, and there's going to be hopefully some audience questions for you shortly. I'd like to bring in Mo Issap now. Mo, Lou has given us the bigger picture on this. I'd like to get into some of the specifics of this blueprint with you now, if I may. Mo, what are the main goals of this vision? What does success look like for you?
I think the fundamental of this is, Simon, and you asked the question rightly, why now, and is this the right time for an economic proposition that, you know, we're bringing forward? But I think why the economic proposition is important is what it does differently. And inherently what we want to see is we want to protect our businesses and our economy right now. That's critically important. That's a priority number one. But we also want to be able to set a vision of a different economic landscape, which is better than the one that we came out of. And that means that there are fundamental things that we have to do differently in order to achieve that. That's not going to happen by accident. We have to be very deliberate, very pointed, very focused on achieving that. So I'll give you an example. We want a recovery that is job rich. There's a recovery that can happen, which could actually create productivity, GVA increase, and from an economic sort of measure, we could be out of recession and we could be in a productive amount. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we will have recovered from the tsunami of unemployment, and we could still find high unemployment and increasing productivity. Now, that's not good for Greater Manchester. What Greater Manchester wants and will do differently, and this is the innovation that Lou talks about, is how do we achieve the both? How do we create a job-rich recovery, and how do we create productivity and economic recovery? That is the essence of the proposition. How do we break down the inequalities that we know exist within the workforce environment, the stratified environment that we all have worked in? You know, we all sort of work and live with the same type of socioeconomic groups. And so we don't understand what are the barriers to people who don't have the privilege and the advantages that others have. How do we create a good employer community, the charter that we have, and how does that disseminate from a good employment point of view? And you know, that driving that sort of vision for employers and businesses to be good employers, to provide good opportunities, to do business in the right way. How do we nurture a capital and investment community that is more patient, much more understanding of the opportunities that investment brings, both from an economic and a social impact point of view, not just looking at a profits-driven approach to investment. Those are the fundamental bedrock of an economic proposition that looks to achieve inclusive, you know, economic growth that looks to permeate across all of the parts of GM.
So Mo, I mean, we're a very, you know, Greater Manchester is a very diverse place. The Northwest is a very diverse place. But generally, when I look at the senior management of the majority of the big businesses across our region, it's not as diverse as it might be. How do you do this? You know, if there's a young woman or, you know, a young Black entrepreneur who's looking to get started in business, when they look around the upper echelons of business in our region, it's still largely male and white, isn't it?
Yeah, which is a fact. You can't deny it. And look, that's a reality we sit in today. And anybody who denies it is not true. What we must do is basically give attention and investment to the issue that it deserves. It's not a agenda that you give lip service to. that you tick a box on, that you say that, you know, we've done our bit, you know, we've got a token representative. That's not going to change the status quo. If you're going to commit to inclusivity, you've got to commit to the longer term.
Yeah.
It's not about just what you do tomorrow. It's not just about what you do next year. It's about an inherent mindset change. And that only happens when you look at it from a community perspective. You know, one organization doesn't solve all the problems. We're working together as a community of employers, of business, of public sector, of society in itself, because these things play out in society. But where business has the opportunity, Simon, is if business shows the way, society will then reflect that. If we break down the barriers for those young women from a BAME background, you know, it's like the analogy I give is a climbing wall. And sometimes those climbing walls, you get stuck at a certain point. But if you get the support to climb further, equally amongst your peer group, whether you're from a BAME background or from a different background, you all have the same level of opportunity. And when you reach those blocks, you get the same level of support. You have parity, but that parity will reflect in society. And society will behave because we've shown the way through business. And business is leadership. Lou mentioned entrepreneurs and leaders have the ability to change not only their environment, but the environment that they work in. And I give an example, and Lou mentioned it. You know, I started my business in the Northern Quarter on Dale Street. Yeah? You know, you put a tree there now. I see trees on the Tariff Street. If you had a tree there, you'd have a bonfire within 5 seconds. Now, when the riots happened, and we all remember those riots that happened in London, and they sort of overnight came up to Manchester, and Piccadilly Gardens was an absolute sort of, you know, a really, you know, turbulent situation. The morning after, the entire business community came out with their brushes and their people to clean up the entirety of that business quarter. Nobody asked, nobody made a campaign. This is the power of the people and the businesses that we have. We have to harness that, and we must make sure it's inclusive. We can't leave anybody behind.
So just one thing I wanted to ask you about, which Lou alluded to, was this plan for innovation. Now, I'm particularly interested in the idea of innovation zones. Can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Well, I think from an innovation GM point of view, there's 3 key components on that point. There's the people, the place, and the assets. And how do you activate all 3? By actually creating these innovation district communities. And we already have established innovation districts. You know, we have the Knowledge Corridor, we have Media City, where my business operates, and I operate the landing here. And those districts then are able to absolutely catalyst both innovation. So when we talk about, you know, today, you know, the government's announced the Green Industrial Revolution, right? And we look at that and say, right, how is that going to be possible? But we're already doing this, Simon. You know, if I look at Media City has the biggest cluster of net zero buildings. 26 buildings here are net zero. It's got Green Flag Award for environmentally friendly. But then at the same time, Simon, we've got a company here called the Modern Milkman that have revolutionized the food delivery, because all of their delivery is on recyclable materials. So 1 million bottles of landfill have been saved by this company. That's actually grown 13 times in this year. They're on 12 million revenue, projected to be 300 million in 2024 with an investment already agreed. That's homegrown. That's business, and they're employing 100 new people into our community here who are skilled. So you've got an environment, you've got these startups, and by the way, they want to get a fleet of electric milk floats, which they are now working with a manufacturer that is local to start to create a manufacturing supply chain to provide that rather than buying them from abroad. Now, if you think of that as a sort of a microcosm of what you can actually then expand into Rochdale, into Stockport, with specific thematic, you know, green. I mean, the government mentioned that there should be a town which is going to be an exemplar for home energy and net zero within the. Well, we should be one of those towns because we have the capability, the infrastructure, the tech talent, the startups, the manufacturers, you know, people like Richard Hagan at Crystal Doors, an absolute on the frontier of a manufacturer based in Rochdale. And Rochdale's got some amazing plans, and so has Elise in Stockport. but this is about activating those places to be global beacons, not just for GM, not just for the North, but globally to reshore, to onshore opportunities into our districts, not all into the city, but into the whole of the conurbation.
So Mo, when I see a lot of these, I tend to be quite cynical whenever there's buzzwords. Whenever I hear anything like, you know, Great Reset, Build Back Better, all of this kind of thing, immediately makes me think, well, that's all right if you're some kind of AI company, or you're, you know, I know you're interested in the fourth industrial revolution, all this kind of thing. What if you're not techie? What if you're just you know, a traditional manufacturer? You're making, or you're a brewery. You know, is this economic vision for you in that case as well?
It's absolutely. Technology is about people, Simon. Technologies evolve, they change. The fundamental truth of any technology is the person. It's a people-centric, you know, agenda where we empower our people, whether you're a business leader, whether you're an employee, to be able to seek the opportunity that technology and the changes and the productivity gains that can be made are all people-centric, all our organizations. And this is why, again, you know, we talk about why the economic, at the heart of GM's agenda is skills and talent. Look, we've already in COVID done so much as GM. We've got the Fast Track Fund, which has actually invested 3 million and another 1.5 million into training people, young adults and young people into those skilled opportunities. We have the Digital Futures Fund. We have the Young Person's Guarantee. We have now the Kickstart, which we have now a GM Kickstart board that, you know, I'm chairing, and we're going to create 16,000 job opportunities for people into, you know, skilled employment, whether that's digital or whether it's in other sectors and areas. So absolutely, the economic proposition is for our bedrock. Let's be honest, 99% of our businesses are SMEs, and they're the bedrock. And this is why at this moment in time, Simon, we must protect those businesses. These are family-owned businesses that have been growing for 100 years, 50 years, hard-sold businesses that today we've got to protect. And one of the ways, and I'll just finish on this, the investor, you know, one of the biggest problems that our community, our businesses have is the liquidity, because their contracts, their business opportunities have stalled. They've not disappeared, they've not gone away, they've stalled. So if you're in a supply chain in aerospace, civil aerospace, automotive, you know, into the food and beverage with retail, you know, those companies are suffering. But what they need is support to maintain liquidity. So one of the things that we must do now is the capital that we have, and whether it's debt or whether it's equity or whether it's investor, needs to consider the longer term. We can't make decisions just on the fact of, you know, we were all entrepreneurs in 2008, 2009. We went through the pain when the banks just basically disappeared off the face of the earth and we were left with holding what we had and our mortgages at risk, right? But we can't have that. This is not an economic crisis. This is a health crisis that has made a major impact in the economy. And we must protect the bedrock of those businesses to help them innovate, to get liquidity, to see the future, which the economic proposition is setting out, so they can believe that there is a better future forward and they can invest with confidence. Entrepreneurs are opportunity engineers. They will find an opportunity as long as you create the environment for them to succeed.
Fantastic. Mo, I'm going to come back to you shortly for some audience questions. So that's just a reminder to our audience, you can submit questions. They are coming in thick and fast, so I will get to some questions later. But I think at this point, we've got a short video which we're going to look at. It's only a few minutes, so don't go away and put the kettle on. It's a good video, this one. So if we can play that now, I'll see you shortly. Oh, there you go. That was catchy, wasn't it? I'd like to bring in Elise Wilson now. Good morning, Elise. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. So, Elise, as well as your combined authority role, you're leader of Stockport Council, and you also run a family business yourself. Do you want me to plug it? Littlewood Butchers, Littlewood Butchers, Heaton Chapel. I was saying earlier, she hasn't paid me to say this. Fantastic butchers. I used to go there when I lived in Heaton Chapel. It's lovely. Minty lamb riblets, would recommend. So, Elise, running a family business yourself, a lot of this is going to be close to your heart, isn't it? But the vision, it's forward looking. What can businesses get now? You know, people are talking about these carbon targets in 2050 and 2040. If you're a business that needs help now, what support's available to them?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, what Lou and Mo was saying about being a North Star and having a vision for the future, so that we can create confidence and we can go forward to make the most of potential opportunities. But in the meantime, you've got to survive, haven't you? And businesses like mine, where actually Christmas is potentially one of the most significant times of the year in terms of turnover, profit. You know, you need a good Christmas. It's really, really important. We'll be really, really worried. What's going to happen on the 2nd of December, you know, when the national lockdown ends? Where are we going to be there? How are we going to get through that? Businesses will have stock that they've ordered probably possibly on credit. They need to shift that for Christmas. Other businesses, hairdressers, beauty therapists, you know, there's a lot of people that are making money over Christmas, and so right now we need to have things in place to support them, and like Mo was saying, you know, making sure that we don't lose these businesses that have been built over years, these small family businesses, but actually help them survive this time so that we can all flourish later. We know that the government's made available some business support money. Councils across Greater Manchester will be working really, really hard to get that money out as fast as possible. I know in Stockport we've already got payments going out to people, and those are related to rateable value, so businesses that pay business rates basically. But we also know that there are businesses, and we learned this in the first lockdown, that were not eligible for that money because they weren't the rate payer, and we know that there are other sectors that were just fell through the gaps. There wasn't the same amount of support, and we're hoping to be able to put some kind of discretionary fund together to support those businesses and as best we can. So that's work's ongoing. I know that cash flow is going to be important. Getting this money out to businesses as fast as possible has to be what we're about. But in terms of what else can we do, so where else are we going? And a lot of that is how we can tackle those inequalities and the disproportionate impact that all of this crisis has had. We know there's particular sectors and particular groups of people. Young people have seen real difficulties, real big job, unemployment there, and there's the government's Kickstart scheme, and we want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to make it as good as we can for Greater Manchester, and showing that young people between 16 and 24 who are potentially at risk of long-term unemployment on universal credit are really able to get work placements and really try and support them back into employment, and that's important because of what Mo was saying earlier around this is about people and about our talent pipeline. We know there are entire sectors desperately trying to recruit people. We also know there's people out there out of work, and what we want to be able to do is help and support people into getting the skills they need to access the new jobs that are available, and the work that the growth company are doing, and really there to support that and make that happen, both in terms of skills for individuals, but helping businesses access money and loans that might be available, support with Kickstart, getting advice and all of that, the work that they're available and the information that's there, and the support that's through the growth companies really stands out for me. And it's something that as Greater Manchester is special to us, and really something that is of huge value. And I think when you look at other city regions and other places around Britain, they'll go, wish we had a growth company.
Right. So we've just got a slide up at the moment about the growth company there, and the kind of role that plays. Have we got another slide as well? There we go. So this is a little bit of information which people can get, and I suppose if you put that hashtag in, you'll be able to follow that around on Twitter. So Elise, I'm going to take some audience questions shortly. But for you, you're leader of Stockport Council. Why is Greater Manchester a key place to support the UK's economic growth and recovery?
Well, as Greater Manchester, we're a city region that's been on a journey for some time now. 10 boroughs in Greater Manchester came together and created the combined authority. And what we've done through devolution and been able to do working together has really set us as a city region apart from other places. And we're really trailblazing in what we're able to do, and certainly see ourselves as a real opportunity to pull down money, resources, to have influence and bring that closer to the people whose lives we want to make better and support. And so for Stockport, it is incredibly important to be part of Greater Manchester. The wider benefits are for Greater Manchester, but for Stockport specifically are huge, not least around the Mayoral Development Corporation, which is the first mayoral development corporation of its kind for a town in the country. And what we're trying to achieve there is not just about delivering a bunch of homes, but actually creating the newest, coolest, greenest urban neighborhood, and really looking at that town's agenda. So when we were talking earlier about Innovation GM and about how actually it's about people, it's about place, and it's about assets, what Mo was saying, it's about how do we look at these towns now, and we think this crisis, what have we learned in this crisis about ourselves? And Lou was quite right when she said, oh wow, trees, we like them, and we like wildlife, and oh look at that, we like being able to have the local park and the culture of our area where we live, the coffee shops, the access to the museums, the strolls that we can have around where we are. And actually, do you know what? We like this. We're embracing the digital new way of working. We're thinking about working from home, or we've suddenly found ourselves out of work. We've always wanted to do that thing that was a hobby, turn it into a business. Where can we create, shared space, startup space? Where can we build the homes, communities that actually going to spark the creativity, that's going to deliver the new innovation, the new jobs, the new entrepreneurs of the future? And there's, I would say, and you'll say I'm biased, but Stockport MDC and the ambition of Stockport generally for the borough, we've really got a lot of going for us, and a lot of in the pipeline of how we want to see that come about, because we are a suburb of Greater Manchester, we are a town borough, but we have a lot to offer, and together with a city like Manchester, you cover everything off, don't you, if you can get all the corners of the city region along on the same journey.
Well, this leads me to an audience question that we've got, and we do appreciate the viewers that have taken the time to submit questions. I'm going to throw these questions open to my three speakers now, so chime in, anybody who'd like to answer it. So this question is from Lauren Millward, and the example she uses is Media City, and she says, how do we ensure that the success reaches the community in which it lies? For example, the difference in the inequality between Media City and Odsal. So Media City is a success, that's great. Odsal is not necessarily benefiting from that success. So how do we fix that?
Do you want me to take that, Simon, as being in Media City and working closely with Salford Council? It's absolutely true. What exists are social borders, and they're not just economic borders. They're social borders, because essentially these borders exist, and sometimes the walls are very high, and you can't access that economic powerhouse, because you're in a different landscape, in a different world to that extent. And the way we have to do this is be able to actually, one of the things that I'll give you an example of how you can do this. We've got Kickstart, and what we're doing at Salford is we're going to create a Kickstart Digital, where Salfordian young people can actually join that digital creative placement opportunity, but there will be an actual digital Kickstart program that they get embedded into. The idea being that they actually then transition into an apprenticeship within that particular business community to actually then have a belonging to that innovation and success in economic terms. What we need to create is role models for those individuals, those citizens of those communities who only are half a mile away, but they might as well be in a different continent, to be able to understand the pathways that then can be achieved. But you're absolutely right. That is a fundamental structural problem that exists. It exists in the city centre. If you compare Gorton and Moss Side to the Oxford Road corridor, the same things exist there. So we've got to be very deliberate. And again, going back to the economic proposition, we have to do things differently. It can't be accepted that you have economic success with social degradation, where people lose out. There's winners and losers. There's got to be winners across the board, and it's got to be embedded in the heart of those communities. And you break them down through these investment opportunities that we get, but we fundamentally start at the root cause at school, at primary school and into school. We inspire those young people, and look at the impact, the inequalities that we are facing. Absolutely chalk and cheese. You get schools in the south, in some of the more established communities, and look at the young people in our communities. That's already happening today. Forget all of the the innovation GM stuff. That's happening today. We have to address that front on. And again, Elise mentioned about UK government. It's investment, and we have to continue pushing hard for investment to break down those economic and social borders.
Thanks, Mo. I've got a question in now from Selena Hanley, and again, I'll throw this one to the floor. She says, how do you learn about the inequality, not inequality, the inner qualities of the people you represent in Manchester to help make the changes needed to really build back better? Who'd like to take that question?
Yeah, I'll take that. I think it's about not pulling the ladder up behind you. It's about actually making sure that we open a door and we bring people through that door with us, and we don't pull the ladder up, and actually ensuring that you have that representation. We know, and there's a member of the LEP board, and she says this all the time, that the best boards, the most successful ones, are the ones where there's actually a diversity, where we have men and women and different men and women, and with all the multitude of differences that we bring, and the ones where we have those differences are the ones where we see real success and a real spark of ideas. So I'd say the way you make sure that we take people with us is by taking people with us. It's about pulling them with you and not pulling up that ladder behind you, but keeping it there and pushing the person in front of you up and pulling the other one with you. It's about making sure that we do genuinely do what we say we're going to do and take everybody with us.
Great stuff. I'm going to keep firing these questions at you now. So we've got one from Victoria Burtonshaw from Health Innovation Manchester, and she asks, how can business leaders work together to influence local policy now more than ever?
Shall I take that one, Simon? So I suppose in a sense that's what today's about. And if you think about a platform like the LEP, and all its oddness and its kind of relationship somewhere between local policy and national policy and business, I guess part of what we're doing today is opening up the LEP to be exactly that platform where we want to work with business and business organisations and business leaders to make sure that voice is represented in the room, and we're lucky enough to be in the room and to be working hand in hand with GMCA on the policies that shape our future city region, and also an ear into national government. So I think that really is, you know, as we've got to know the weird and wonderful world of the LEP in Manchester, in Greater Manchester, that's really our opportunity, because we're uniquely structured and work incredibly closely with our kind of political leaders to make sure that business and economy and policy work hand in hand, because I think we recognise that's the only way that some of these things really will change. Either in isolation can't do the job quick enough.
Well, you're not that weird, Lou. So I've got a question now for Mo, which is coming in. It says you talked about innovation finance. This is a two-part question, Mo. What would you say to investors who are considering GM as a destination for capital? And secondly, how do we make sure investment goes across GM and isn't just targeted in the city centre?
Great question. I'll take the second part first, and then the first one. One of the things that we as a LEP did very deliberately over the last few months is, and we talked about the growth company. The growth company has GC Finance and GC Angels, is that we've put in £3 million to actually specifically be an investment pot for diversity and inclusivity, to make sure that that money, it's not major money. Look, it's not going to change the landscape to any major degree. It's what we had available, but it's an intention to make sure that we're not just courting the same types of investment propositions, and we're actually going out actively to seek out those entrepreneurs, those businesses that may be facing barriers to entry into that space, and we break them down and we deliberately work with them to get them investment ready and be able to succeed in that way. To the investor community, well, you know, we are the best proposition for any capital that comes in terms of the talent we have, the infrastructure you talk about, the collaboration between university and industry and the public sector is unique, and there's so many examples. I mean, look at this sort of GM Cyber Foundry, the AI Foundry, the GCHQ relationship across the whole of the GM ecosystem. This is a perfect place for you to be able to actually future-proof your investment and achieve that success. But what I would also say to the investment community, that the type of investment community we do want is a very socially aware investment community, and an investment community that understands why GM can be a great partner for them in terms of outcomes, both from a business point of view, but also from an impact and society. Because if you create the environment, more will follow, and success breeds success. But that success can't come at a cost to the social value proposition. So what we want is an investment community that is patient, that is thinking longer term, that understands some of the barriers to some of the entrepreneurs and is willing to actually work with that, because success is there. We have rough diamonds everywhere, and we just need to work with those rough diamonds to make them shine. Because I'll truly say this, that when you ask the question to Elise about what can, you know, Greater Manchester do for Great Britain, it will be the powerhouse and the engine to drive that innovation commercialization, because of the talent and the infrastructure, the public sector and the private sector co-investing together to actually deliver economic and social outcomes. And that's the crux of it. So yeah, we're open for that investment. And I'll tell you, the international investment community, and for the international business investment community, we're not giving them an off-the-shelf product. We're giving them a blank canvas, and we're saying to them, you can make your investment because we'll work in partnership with you. And if you do that, that will create jobs and opportunities and prosperity. So we're not just looking into the UK, but we're looking at the international community as well.
Well, guys, sorry, Elise, yeah.
Can I just come in quickly? I think when we say we do things differently, we genuinely do. This isn't a buzzword. The fact that the Greater Manchester LEP, together with a combined authority, the way we're set up, the way we work together to actually share vision and drive forward in our own areas of expertise, but to do it as a team, to recognise that actually teamwork makes the dream work. And it's the best thing is recognising people's what they can bring themselves. If you want to invest in Greater Manchester, we want to hear from you. But like Mo says, you've got to want to be part of this team, part of what we're doing here. And I think it's the recognition that, you know, we can do things differently. We are going to work with other people on this, and we are going to drive it, but you've got to want to be part of what we're doing, because we're going places, and we genuinely believe in that. We have the North Star that Lou has so eloquently set out for us, and behind that we have masses of enthusiasm to go and get it. But that's, you've got to come with us on that, with it. You know, you've got to want to be part of this, you know, new air, green air, this new frontier sector, this powerhouse that we're building here, because that's where we're going. So come and join us on that. And I'd say what the growth company are able to do, whether it's through Midas and the work that they're doing on an international stage, you know, that can really connect you. They know all the corners of the city region. Midas know us all, and they're working together to actually say, where in the city region are those rough diamonds? What are you looking into investing, and how can we match you up? And so I'd say, if you're looking, you know, if you want to start somewhere, start with Midas.
Fantastic. Well, look, Elise, you know, as you touched upon, I think that something in the Northwest and in Greater Manchester, people appreciate authenticity, and they can smell it a mile away when people are not authentic. And I think that you guys, your genuine enthusiasm and your authenticity and your genuine passion for this has really come across this morning, and I genuinely mean that. So, I mean, thank you to our speakers. Thanks to everybody for watching, for submitting your questions. You're going to be able to read coverage of this and follow-ups to this event in the next issue of Northwest Business Insider. If you don't subscribe, I'm sure you can find me on Twitter, and you'll be able to message me. I'll be able to help you. You can also, if you'd like to find out more about this economic vision, please head to www.gmlep. There it is on your screen. Is www.gmlep.com/economic vision, and when you're there, you'll be able to download and read the whole economic vision document. You can view the video, and I would recommend that you follow the LEP on Twitter and LinkedIn, which will keep you up to date with any developments and support for all the work that they're doing in Greater Manchester. So thank you very much to everybody, and have a great day.